Hello and welcome to my 5K series on how to pick your very first 5K. In today's short discussion, I'll be talking about which course to pick for your very first 5K. It's a big decision. If it's the first race you're ever doing and you're getting out there trying to complete that first 5K, the course could be a big decision. And so that's why I want to cover this first in my 5-part series. You're basically going to run into one of three types of courses. The first course that you would run across is called the point to point, as I have here shown. That means you start at one place and you end at another place. This is not a very common course for a 5K run. This is a common course for half marathons and marathons, but not so much for 5K or even 10Ks for that matter. So this one you won't see a lot, but there are advantages and disadvantages with any of these courses. The main advantage of a point-to-point one is that it is a straight line, so to speak. There's not going to be many turns, as you can see on this course. There's really only maybe 3. So it's a relatively fast route to go. So point to point has its advantages in that regard. The next type of course that you can run across is the out and back, which means you literally run out 1.55 miles, turn around, and go back 1.55 miles to where you began. So the starting line and the finish line is the exact same place. Now, the advantage of this one is, unlike the point to point, is you can usually park, start the race, finish it, get back to your car relatively close. The point to point sometimes, and this is the disadvantage of point to point, there may be busing involved or some type of transportation issue. The out and back, you wouldn't have to worry about that because you finish where you start. So the transportation is not a concern of yours while you are running the race. The out and back, that's the big advantage is transportation. The big disadvantage to an out and back, well, there's 2 of them really, and this is one of the most common 5K routes that you'll see is the out and back. The 2 big disadvantages is one, turning around. Depending on how they handle that turnaround point, you have to slow down considerably to make that turn. And if you're worried about that at all in your first 5K, that is something to consider when picking your first one. If it's not a concern, then don't worry about that. The second disadvantage is congestion. If it's a large event and the path is not wide enough to accommodate everybody, you can run into congestion, which will slow you down or hamper you. And one event, I actually pulled a hamstring muscle because I had to step into what was almost like a ditch to avoid hitting a kid that stopped. Maybe like a 10-year-old kid just stopped. And to avoid running over him, I had to jump to the side and I hurt my hamstring. So congestion could be an issue on the out and back, no matter if you're taking it seriously or how fast you're running or not. That is something to consider also when you're picking a route for your very first 5K. The last type one is a loop, and it's also one of the major ones you'll see. Most of them are out and back or loop. I like the loop course the most out of all of these because you start and stop where you begin, just like it is for the out and back. So transportation is not an issue, but also you don't have a turnaround point. The congestion is not as much of a concern because you're basically running a big circle, a big box, or a certain route. I mean, like the one I have pictured here, but it eliminates the issues that you have with the out and back. And so a lot of the faster times that I've seen are actually on the loop courses. But again, if that's not a concern for you, speed wise, then that's not a big concern for any of these. But if transportation is an issue, then again, a loop course will eliminate all those needs. Now, the last thing to consider before you do your very first 5K is the elevation. If you live in a relatively flat area, this probably won't be an issue. If you live in a mountain state like I do, it could be an issue. So I put this one up here. I just found this one out of Salt Lake City that the elevation is 300 plus feet for a 5K race. That's a lot for a 5K. The 5Ks are usually pretty flat and level no matter where you are. They do that on purpose. So check that just in case you're worried, because you want to have a pleasant experience for your very first 5K. So I hope this helped you. And choosing your very first 5K. We have 4 other videos on this series, including medals, shirts, and other things. But the course is one that a lot of people don't consider when they go out to pick that very first 5K race to participate in. So if you like this video, give it the thumbs up. And as always, appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. And I look forward to seeing you in our other videos.